Hello trophy hunters, I do love a good minigame. How cool was Queen's Blood in Final Fantasy Rebirth? But if you had to pick one minigame that defines side activities in our little video game bubble, there's a good chance you're going to choose Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII. It obviously wasn't the first minigame to appear in an RPG, and even its predecessor, FF7, contained many great diversions. But Triple Triad killed it. It felt like it made a huge impact, proving that minigames could provide both deep gameplay and replayability whilst remaining completely optional. You can see then the evolution to Gwent in The Witcher 3, which is more like a full-fledged card game in comparison, but retains the world presence and collection process found in FF8. You walk into a tavern and there are peasants playing Gwent. That's what these characters like to do, to unwind. They play Gwent. It's an accepted part of the world, and it's wonderful for immersion. It's no doubt a big part of The Witcher's identity. It's no surprise then that following the popularity of Gwent, CD Projekt Red announced a standalone version for PC and consoles. Now this is where I really took notice of it, an online competitive card game with trophy support on the PlayStation. It was a mix of my favourite things. I was literally in heaven. I was gaining traction on the Platinum, but taking my time. So unfortunately, they shut down the servers in 2019, making the Platinum completely unobtainable. I finished with 75% completion in the end, which isn't so bad, but I do regret not getting the Platinum. And despite the console server closure, Gwent did really well on Steam and mobile. Expansions, new cards, events, and eventually a brand new standalone single-player game, Thronebreaker. And for those unfamiliar, Thronebreaker is more than just a single-player Gwent game. It's a narrative-driven RPG that combines card battles with exploration and deep morale choices. And these choices really matter. Often you're choosing the lesser of two evils, the greyest of grey areas as your army looks to your character. Queen Maeve for impossible decisions. The choices affect everything from card power, the characters you obtain and retain, story beats, and the resources needed to upgrade or create new cards. I was very impressed with it all. So it is a single player worth playing, full of complex, likeable characters and excellent voice acting.
Having taken an oath, to it I must remain devoted.
It's worth playing for those alone. But this is the story of its Platinum, and unfortunately, it's one that I found quite frustrating. The main reason is because of the collectibles. There are 6 large maps to explore, each with its own point of no return, sometimes more than one, as the story progresses and then you're unable to backtrack across the earlier half of the map. And seeing as there's 6 or 7 collectible types, each with their own trophy tied to them, I found progressing quite stressful. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad for other people, but I had to constantly look up and double check I wasn't missing anything. It's kinda like checking your oven is off before going to bed, or locking your front door and then getting to work, only to wonder if someone's in your home playing PS5 because you left the door open. My main advice in every area is to send out scouts. They cost gold, one of the valuable resources in the game, but scouts mark every point of interest on your map. They require multiple outings, but it is worth it. Events and battles lead to gold chests, puzzle fights, treasure maps, keys, spy letters, and new character cards, so it's worth knowing where each one of those are. I'll detail the collectibles, but generally, scouts are the way to go to not miss anything. Getting all 42 gold chests will unlock the tax collector trophy. There are 15 treasure maps with its own trophy, cartographer, that lead to some of the gold chests. Now the gold chests contain gold, of course, which feeds back into funding the scouts, upgrading the camp, and earning a total of 10,000 gold for another trophy.
A knight should help. Our codex commands it.
Onto the weapons, there are 8 to collect in Thronebreaker, and they act like leader abilities do from the standalone Gwent, which is a usable ability separate from your card plays with a multitude of effects.
This harvest, we'll be reaping black-clad heads.
My favourite and go-to was using the weapon card Flail, which hits 3 adjacent targets and moves them back a row. Very useful for cards that take advantage of other cards moving, like Spike Trap, which damages any new card put onto that row. Some of the weapons are extremely missable, several are story related, they're fine, but others are to do with choices within the game. Now these dialogues are excellently written and engaging, but for a trophy hunter, this has the illusion of choice. We are going to go for the option that gives us the weapon for the trophy. So some of that magic is lost on this playthrough if you're just going for the trophies. But magic it is. I mean, the spear, for example, you liberate a town from the Nilfgaardian invading force. Half the townsfolk condemn a blacksmith to you, a man who offered his services to save his own skin. Meve is pissed because the work was exceptional. The enemy's weapons and armor gave them advantage over the Lyrians because of this blacksmith. But then people start shouting from the crowd that he saved a man's son, that he shared what little food he had with others. Loads of people speak up about his smaller deeds that helped them out. I love the outcome of this. If you release the blacksmith, which does get you the weapon and the spear, Meve argues to the other professions, the other townsfolk, that the baker baked the bread they ate, that the potter crafted the cups that the enemy drank from. When does pursuing one's craft end and treachery begin? It's such an interesting perspective, and the game is full of these choices and the writing like this. Every 20 foot there's a bloody choice which is difficult to make, and that's part of the trouble for a trophy hunter. Too much choice and specific choices tied to trophies, which means you're shoehorned into one choice really. Some collectibles aren't so bad. Hoarder is awarded for collecting 10 trinkets, and trinkets are special cards you can add to your deck, usually powerful one-off uses, and you can only have about 2 or 3 equipped. You only need 10 for the trophy, even though there are 39 of them, and all 10 are story related, so that's nice. Then there's Army Camp Tycoon. You just need to purchase every camp upgrade, which you do gradually throughout the game. Unlocks become progressively available. They cost a decent amount of gold and wood, but I did have more than enough by the end of the game. Other trophies tied to the camp are for crafting each unit type from the characters Gascon and Reynard. This camp also has a tavern, which is where you can send out the scouts I mentioned earlier, and also catch up with any characters you've unlocked.
Carve these runes with a knife.
The method makes little difference. What do they mean?
Aim here. Message for enemy archers.
There are several trophies for recruiting them, and they are wonderful. Each one has their own story, relationships, even conditions under which they will leave. But the trophy is just for recruiting them. I had so many favourites: a dog called Knickers, an engineer called Xavier, and a self-proclaimed monster hunter called Ike, who wants to rid the world of every monster. If you show compassion to any kind of beast, he will just up and leave, and some monsters are intelligent. During a few events, they will plead or bargain. It's well worth trying to keep characters happy, because their cards are unique and overpowered. Ike gains 1 power every time any of your units are damaged, for example. Some other missables include gathering 5,000 wood, 10,000 gold, which I mentioned earlier, 250 recruits, which you can create new cards from, and praying at 10 shrines throughout the game. Which does remind me, I've not even talked about the morality system. The choices you make improve and lower morale, affecting your card's power in battles. Events or battles will make your soldiers tired, or perhaps someone falls ill and you have a choice to make, whether to use resource and heal them, or leave them behind and save on the resources. God knows what the right choice is, but morale will be affected one way or the other. Praying at a shrine raises your morale by 1. It's just another well thought out and simple mechanic that affects everything. Now, I misunderstood the burn before reading trophy, which is to read all Spymaster letters. The guide has it as missable, so obviously it must be, and I've definitely found unique Spymaster letters on corpses or in loot. The scouts will help here. What threw me off is certain story choices get you certain Spymaster letters, with 1 behind each choice. So when you choose one, you're locked out of the other. I thought that you would need 2 playthroughs to gather the others. But no, you only need to read the ones you're rewarded with. You only need a single playthrough, the Platinum Thronebreaker. Still, I was very cautious and very unsure of the trophy throughout the whole of the game. This is part of what I had to keep looking up to appease my mind that I had missed something, even up to the final letter. You know, when you're just staring at the screen waiting for a trophy to pop on what's meant to be the last thing. It's a very nervous 10-20 seconds. That was me here. Obviously it turned out okay, but I like to let you guys know what goes through my head at times like that. Other than that, you're looking at a few miscellaneous trophies like eliminating 9 enemies simultaneously or finishing a fight without any of your units dying. And whilst missable, these ones are easier to do with loads of opportunities throughout the game. The rest of the list is thankfully unmissable story with no difficulty related trophies or anything like that. Overall, I really enjoyed the game. The gameplay loop is so fun. Creating a nice deck that synergizes with everything is so rewarding. You upgrade your camp, have access to better cards and then more options, complement those with the character cards and trinkets you find, and you'll end up pulling off some mad combos. My favourite build was movement based, whilst refreshing orders to use things again. Cards that move enemies or allies, and then cards that damage or gain power for being moved. There's so much choice and room for experimenting in the actual card based gameplay. I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Gwent, yet I wasn't bored once in Thronebreaker. It really helped that every card is different from what I'm familiar with in a standalone PvP game. Cards in Thronebreaker are overpowered as hell in comparison, but that also applies to the opponents. It still feels grounded and tactical and follows the general rule of 1 card per turn, whilst using orders and abilities to extend your options or reuse the abilities entirely. There's so much synergy, like when you use your leader ability you activate loyalty, then cards with the loyal tag use their loyal ability, attacks a random enemy, gives armor or gains power, that kind of thing. Couple all of that with a lot of the battles having unique modifiers or win conditions, and you have a wonderfully varied and challenging game with a really engaging story. It absolutely pushed me to get the platinum because I was enjoying it so much. And now that I finished it, all I want to do is play The Witcher 3 whilst waiting for The Witcher 4. So on paper, this is an easy platinum and isn't even very rare, but it's one where you've got to pay attention before moving on to each area, lest you want another playthrough. My total time was 40 hours. I love going back to this. It was kind of redemption for not getting the original standalone Gwent platinum that was shut down 5 years ago. I do hope Gwent gets another chance to shine. I'd love another standalone or even in The Witcher 4. Until then, I'll just have to wait and play another round of Gwent. So thanks for checking out the video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed it, but do take it easy and I'll be sure to catch you guys on the next one. See ya.